Hi guys, this is Dormouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
And today we have a special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Xonevant from Squareonegames. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here to talk with us.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yay.
So we are going to talk about, I think you should say it, Rob.
Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Fallout 4. And I think we should just get this right out of the way, out of the gate. This is going to be spoilers. We are going to talk about everything, anything and everything on any playthrough, any faction, any quest that anybody has done. We are going to talk about it. So
nobody is safe from our spoilers. You have been warned.
Yes.
Yes.
So how do we even start to dissect this game? Because like there's so many different ways that we could go to start
Main
off.
story, maybe, to start off with.
Yeah, I think we should have started.
Yeah, we should just cut to the chase. We'll start with main story. All right. So who wants to tackle this thing first?
I actually enjoyed the main story for the most part, which might put me in the minority on the podcast, but
I think somebody's gonna definitely be in the minority on this podcast.
Yeah,
I feel like
I don't know.
Somebody
might be in the minority on every single issue we talk about.
But it makes
a
good reasoned debate, which is
Yes. So what did you like about the main story?
I like the fact that it could diverge in lots of different ways. It wasn't too linear, say like Fallout 3, where you basically follow the entire main storyline through to the end with a few minor different decisions, but in this one it felt like your decisions had more impact because you sided with a particular faction, say like in New Vegas, where it shifts the direction in which the main story goes in. I also liked the beginning of the main story where it shows you a bit before the war, so you can kind of see all the pristine world and realize how far gone the rest of the world is in the future. So I think that's what I liked about the main story. In a nutshell.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes.
All right. Well, how about you, Mr. Xonevant?
I thought the opening cutscene fantastic. Right? It started off really, really well. I was not actually a fan of the pre-war sequence. I thought it was too short. It was too brief. And I never really felt connected to anything. So when the game finally ramped up and I came out the vault and I was, ready to do my wasteland type stuff, I just felt disconnected as soon as I came out. You know what I mean? I did not feel connected to the story at all. So for me, I would have just rather them either extend the length of that pre-war sequence. Like there was one part where your character's talking about, maybe we should go over there to the park or something like that and play with the child or whatever. I kind of wish that you could have done some of that stuff. Just not like for 2 hours or anything, just a little bit more contextual stuff so I can mesh a little bit more with these characters. And so I wish they would have either extended it or just the beginning of the beginning of the game should have just been me coming out the vault. Either one of those would have been fine for me, but the way that they had it, I feel like they tried to play the middle of the road and kind of have a pre-war sequence and make it go by too fast, and I don't think it went well, personally. So, opening cutscene, fantastic, and then for me, it was kind of downhill after that because I just didn't feel that connection.
Alrighty, and for me, I guess I'm kind of more in the camp of was kind of disappointed with the opening sequence. I won't say that I didn't like it, but I'll say I was disappointed with it. I think it was a great idea to have that pre-war Boston and to see that, but if they were going to go for that, I think that I think a few things. I agree with you, Xonevant, that I would have liked to have spent more time with the characters at the beginning to feel more connected to them, because I completely felt disconnected from it from the start as well. Mine was a little bit different because for me, I did not like that they put me in a pre-made story. Like that my character was already there and had a family, and you didn't have really any choice in that. And, you know, it was like this whole life that this person had, and it just plopped me into it. And now the same could be said for the other two characters. Well, not really for Fallout 3, but the same could be said for New Vegas, that character had an entire life and backstory, but none of that ever mattered. It never made any difference. It didn't affect the story at all, and you could basically write whatever backstory you wanted for that character in your mind. And you just weren't allowed to do that with this one. It was like, you're this person, and you have a spouse, and you have a child, and you have no say in that. And now I understand why they did that, because the story demanded it with where they were wanting to go. But right. But I did not like that, and that sort of took me out of it right away.
Me too.
Yep. And especially because they didn't give you enough time to build a bond with your spouse or the child. And then just expected that you were going to care about them. And that just didn't work for me personally.
Yeah, for me too.
So I would have liked, as far as the whole pre-war thing, I wish that we'd spent more time there, and I wish that we had gone to more places. Like, really all you saw was the inside of a house, and then some other houses as you were running by in a panic. And it was like, let's hurry up and get them to the part where they're shooting things, because if they're not shooting things in the first 5 minutes of the game, then people are not going to have the attention span for that.
Right.
But I would have kind of liked to have maybe gone to some of the major locations, like go to Fenway Park, go to, the CIT or something, university. Maybe not that one, because that was supposed to be like underground or something. But like go to some of the major locations, right? And see what they look like pre-war. That way when you go there in the main story, it's like, oh my gosh, look at how different this is. That would have had a bigger impact to me. And I don't know that they necessarily needed to spend a whole ton of time there, but I think like 40 minutes of pre-war would have been awesome.
Yep. And they could have done it creatively, a lot. I mean, I do like the way that Fallout, especially like in Fallout 3 where you're the baby and you're kind of growing up. They do have these very ingenious ways of putting in like gameplay mechanics. Like in this one, your character creation, you're looking at the mirror. Those are neat ways to do these type of mechanics. I mean, they could have done anything in that pre-war section. They didn't have to have you necessarily like travel to the baseball stadium, but they could have done like a picture album. Where you're looking at a picture album, and maybe when you open it up, there's a photo, and then it just kind of goes into a video for a second. You know what I mean? Like a little montage. Oh, I remember the time we went here. They could have creatively done it if they just wanted you to stay in the house. They could have pulled it off. It could have been on TV. All these things could have been in place, and I just think it was a missed opportunity for connecting yourself to the world. Because, like you said, once you finally get there, after the bombs dropped, then you do have that kind of, wow, I remember how it used to look, and now it looks like this.
Yeah.
And you just never really had that connection in the game.
See, for me, that works with Sanctuary. They didn't need to go to anywhere else, because you got to see Sanctuary in its prime, as it was, all of the houses pristine. And then you're, like, put back in there straight away. Like, the quest marker takes you to see Codsworth, who's your robot, and... It's like, you can see the devastation. They didn't need, for me, to go to anywhere else. That was well done enough. Like, wow, you can really see how this has changed. Like, it would be a shock for you, because she doesn't know how long she's been frozen for. Or, for me, it was a she, because that's who I played as. Obviously, for Xonevant, it was a he, because I'm assuming you played as the male character?
Yeah, I'll be doing a female character for my videos for YouTube, but yeah, I was a male both times on my playthroughs.
So for me, that worked well. Like, because they did do the sort of beginning part as short as they did, it kind of fitted in well that they went to Sanctuary straight away to show you the difference, and then you can go off into the Wasteland and do your own adventure. And I understand that you find it limiting because you feel like their backstory is already written for them, but for me that made a slight change to having an older protagonist. Like in New Vegas, you could choose to be whatever age range you wanted to be, and then in Fallout 3 you were younger, so you'd always start off as a younger person. And in this one, they kind of, if they were going to go for an older person, they needed to have some kind of backstory, and it would make sense for the time that they're in for your character to be married, and they have to have the son for the main story. Mm-hmm. And I know what you mean about you not being able to maybe bond with the son so much and actually have a bit of rapport with them, say interaction in the park and stuff, but to me it's like someone's just stolen my child, whether I've spent 10 minutes at the beginning of the game bonding with them or not. My child's gone, and I would want to find them. And the same case for your husband's dead. It's like, you may not have bonded with those characters enough in your opinion, but for me it's like, they still killed my husband, or my wife, and it's like impactful enough. I guess maybe I don't need so much interaction to, feel that that's impactful. But that's just my opinion.
No, I mean, I guess for you it was just the jarring effect of losing your kid and your spouse. Just that jarring effect. Whereas for me, I need to kind of feel emotionally attached to them more.
Yeah, which is
to feel like it makes a difference. So it's just a preference on that end. I just can't, and you can compare it to any franchise out there. I mean, I'm a big fan of Uncharted, but if you go back to the very first Uncharted game and, they try to do some jarring storyline plot twist and I'm not connected to the characters at all, I wouldn't feel it. You know what I mean? And so now if they do it because they're 3 games deep, then it would be a big deal because I've connected over 3 games to all these characters. So for me, and the way that I absorb stories, I needed a little bit more. Because when you think about the dialogue sequences inside of that house, you basically had like one core conversation with Codsworth, one core maybe 2 if you count the one where she's reading the paper. If you're playing I don't know if it's different for male or female, but as a male, she's reading the paper one time and you can talk to her.
I think he's reading the paper in the female one.
And then and then you talk to her in the kids' room, and then you have that one moment with Sean where you spin that thing, and I mean that's it. I mean that's it. And it's like basically one dialogue sequence for each person in the house, and then you talk to the salesman, and that's it. And so for me, it just wasn't enough. And the jarring effect that made it enough for you wasn't enough for me either.
No.
But I hear what you're saying. I can see why that would appeal to certain players. Just wasn't something I could get into.
Cool.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I can definitely see where it's like, well, I am this character. I accept that I'm this character. This character cares about their spouse and their child, and therefore I care about my spouse and my child, and I'm going to go after them. For me, I guess it's the difference between showing me and telling me. Like, in this opening sequence, they tell me that I am this person, and that I have this family, and that I care about them. But they never showed it to me. It was like they just told me to care. And for me, that was just not enough. I needed some actual, you show me why I should care about these people, because, and there's a whole other layer of it for me, because I would never have a husband. And so it's like, it just plops me into this life where it's like, is this the Stepford Wives or some shit? Like, this is not what I would have to begin with. And so therefore it's like my husband dies and I'm like, good, thank God I don't have to deal with you. for the rest of this thing. It's like, and I had this moment where I was like, and if for some reason you're not really dead and you come back, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
I'm going to shoot you in the face, yeah. You're going to die anyway.
So, and I mean, I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but I don't know. It just feels a little bit like you just plop me down in this and expect me to accept it, and then you don't show me why I should care about these people at all. And then, you know, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. And I get why they did it, and I get that it would work for some people, but it just did not for me for various reasons.
No, I hear you. That makes sense. I think we all made valid points on that regard. What do you think about when you finally, what do you think about the character creation, not just the character creation, but the stat points? Because I know in other Fallout games you had kind of more stats you could apply at the beginning.
You mean
I think this
like the perk system this time?
Yeah,
it's literally just perks rather than stats. Like
and not to mention, and I know that, like I said, we're limited to the fact that this is a game, but I just thought it was a little bit weird that the salesman, I know that in my game, my wife may mention that he's been by a couple of times and he's been trying to get a hold of me for weeks, but it was just weird that like he came by and like 2 minutes later, the place is blowing up. I don't know. That just felt too weird to me.
It was a little cliche, really.
Yeah, too much perfect timing. But as far as like assigning points at the beginning, I didn't have any issue with it. I don't know how you guys felt, because there was only like 27 or 28 points or something like that.
I thought that was enough for the start of the game.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
felt like it was enough too.
And I also liked the perk system as a whole in comparison with the other Fallouts, because I felt that it gave you more flexibility. Because the trouble with the other Fallouts is with the like energy weapons or small arms, big weapons and so on, you'd have to put skill points into those categories every time you leveled up. So you'd end up leveling up your like intellect at the start to be able to have enough points to, you know, have a strong end game character. And it also limited what weapons would do good damage, because you'd end up like, or for me, I ended up specializing more in one particular type. Like, you'd go down the energy weapon route and use energy weapons because the other ones would never do enough damage because you didn't have the skill points to get them up high enough. Right. So I felt with this one, like, where they categorized, so like you had like rifle weapons and pistols, it would give you a broad enough scope to be able to, say, use a laser rifle, a sniper rifle and a shotgun and do good damage with them. So you could have the flexibility, say you didn't have enough ammunition with your laser rifle, you could switch to another gun and still be proficient with it, rather than relying on a backup gun that wasn't as good. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had no problem with the stats or the perk system. I really liked the screen, the perk screen, where they were all, you know, the little Pip-Boy guys, and they were animated, and I liked that. I thought that was a cool way to do that system, and it was very organized. Like, you could tell which stats fed into which perks in a much more easier way than you could in some of the other games. It felt to me at first like it had a little less depth. So how you were talking about, you know, you didn't have to specialize as much. In the other games, you had to specialize more, and you had to really allocate your points into certain areas. At first I was like, I kind of liked that, because I don't know, it just felt like you had more control over your character. But, you know, we had talked about this before, and I think I actually changed my opinion about that a little bit, because it's almost like, well, they took away the need to level up a bunch of those things because they just gave you base proficiency in a lot of things. And so just having the perks made sense. And you still, you know, unless you leveled up hardcore, you still couldn't max out everything by the end of the game. So, I mean, you still did have to specialize enough so that one playthrough will probably be different from another if you so choose. So,
yeah,
I didn't have a problem with it in terms. I like the layout, the way it was laid out, very visual. I like that. The only thing that I didn't like about it was I felt like I could just get any skill I wanted. Like you said, there comes a point where I guess it gets kind of tricky to level up, but there's a lot of missions where you can just keep replaying them over and over and over again. I don't know if you guys found a couple of these. And some of them are super easy. Like you can get 300 or 400 experience in like 2 or 3 minutes on some of these, and you can just keep doing them over and over and over again. And I know in previous Fallout games you had to be really picky because there was caps.
Yeah,
and then when
there was a level cap, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I was like, man, I'm only going to get so many, points, if you will, and then I have to rely on bobbleheads and finding things in the game to get other stats added. But if I don't find them, I'm stuck with this base level cap. In this game, there's no level cap that I know of, unless you guys know of one.
No, there isn't,
I don't think
as far as I'm aware. There is a level cap someone found on the PC, but it's ridiculous. It's like something thousands, and it gets to it's like 63,000, and then it just makes the game crash. And it's like, we probably wouldn't ever get to that point in our lifetime of playing the game.
Yeah.
I think
I guess that's
level
the
270 something is you've got all the perks in the game.
Yeah,
which is
and I know
probably
people's got videos up right now of them getting all the perks. But I guess that's the downside for me is if I'm struggling to pick between 2 perks or whatever, it's like, well, I just level up twice and I get them both. That's really my only issue. With the whole perk character creation stats and all that is the fact that I don't. Yeah, there's not this dead end that's in the back of my mind like this is as far as I can go. Mm-hmm. It's just, well, I just level up twice and I'll get them, which is not a bad thing, but in a way I kind of would have wanted it to be a little bit more restricting, but that's a small gripe compared to
maybe they could have done with a high level cap, say somewhere in the 100-120 range, so you can get like half.
Yeah, because some games do that where they have a skill tree or a perk system or whatever, and it's impossible to get all of them. Like you have to kind of pick a
like
path.
In Skyrim, that had a good perk system. I think highest level was 81 or 84 because you could get all of them up to level 100, but you'd only get a limited number of perks. So you'd get 99 perks, I think. 83 perks, I think. Because you get up to like level 84, but you'd be starting at level 1, so you'd miss out on that one.
Yeah, see, I would prefer that, and then for me to truly max out my character, maybe have to go around and get the bobbleheads and you know what I mean to put the extra oomph on my character in terms of getting them all. But that's
what I did in Fallout 3, so that you could get all your stats up to 11 rather than 10.
Yeah,
or like one of them up to 11.
Right. So that's my only gripe with it, with the character creation and the perk tree.
Cool. Going back to the guy with the clipboard, did either of you guys find him?
I did not find him, but I know you supposedly can find him.
Yeah, I don't think I found him either.
If you go to the hotel in Good Neighbor, he's a ghoul, and you can get him to join one of your settlements as a trader. And
that's cool.
He says, "You're like as smooth as the day that I last saw you," and he's just like a wreck. And he's still in his outfit, but it's cool. Some of the little touches that they did.
That's a cool dude. Yeah,
was really quite funny.
What did you guys think about when you go into the vault? Like when you're actually like right when the bomb goes off, did anybody feel contextually like something was off in that scene? Like with the nuke going off and nobody's getting really hurt, nobody's really like the reactions and stuff.
It's like the shockwave hits, and then everyone in the vault is just calm. Like, just follow us, you'll be fine. It's like a nuke's just gone off above, and you guys are not running around or raised voices or panic.
That was weird to me.
But you can understand why they did it that way in context of what the vaults actually are. Because they're like, we've got science experiments to run, so we need to get these people in as calmly as possible. So that's why we're, we're just going to be calm and collective so that we can go and shove them in fridges. But also, I feel like radiation in Fallout acts differently to radiation in real life, with how you can survive exposure repeatedly and not die, because that would be a
all you
bad
have to
game
do is
mechanic.
take some pills.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Also, if I don't know if either of you tried this, if you don't go to the vault and try and run off down the road, the bomb goes off and kills you.
You know, I was thinking about that actually this morning before I went to work. I was like, I wonder if you just don't do anything or run wherever. I wonder if the game.
I ran past the cordon and like onto the bridge that leads in, and the bomb goes off and kills you.
That's cool.
Crazy,
I like that. That's a nice touch, I think.
That is.
Yeah, because they could have easily just like, barricaded everything off and you're just kind of running around waiting. But yeah, I'm glad they did that.
I don't know whether if you just loiter long enough it goes off, because I didn't do that. But I thought,
oh, you're saying you actually have to run?
Yeah, you actually
like
run.
You're trying to leave the area.
Yeah. So I guess you cross a boundary. They may not have done. They might have done the time thing. That would be interesting if you just stand there long enough.
Yeah, because you would think that at some point the bomb would go off and you just die.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's the whole thing about me with that sequence where you're going down into the vault is that, because like when you come out of the vault, and even like you're saying, you're down there in Sanctuary, you're trying to run across the bridge, the bomb goes off, you die. But obviously you're just a couple feet up the hill before you descend down to the vault and it goes off and you don't die. And I get it, it's a game, I'm not trying to be too hardcore, but I can just say that I went through the opening cutscene, I was pumped up, I go through the pre-war thing, and my adrenaline's pumping, and then when the bomb goes off, my mind is like, shouldn't I just be like eradicated right now? And for me, and the way that my brain works, I do the same thing with movies. We talked about this before, Dormouse, with movies, continuity and things being like I can't watch somebody be on one side of the world and then the next cut they're in the other side of the world, and like I don't see them traveling. That's weird for me, the way my brain works. So
Okay.
I'm sitting there going, wait, shouldn't I just be like jacked up right now?
I think,
you know what I mean?
I mean, the physics might be off, but they might have been just far enough down the hole that isn't like a wall of fire. It's like a shockwave.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not going to get. Well, they might get, a bit burnt, and not like charred like Ground Zero where you just get vaporized. So they probably would go blind from the flash, and then they'd probably get some radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
From the fallout.
But like you said, they're just going down the elevator like...
But they're literally just going down. But did either of you notice whether they closed the top as you're going down? Because I didn't look up to see whether they just closed the lid.
I didn't either. I'm sure that... Yeah.
I'm assuming that there wasn't a lid because it looks like the elevator doesn't have a top to it. It's just like that ring, basically. Because when you come back out, it's just a flat ring. There's nothing above your head. Unless they have like
That's
doors.
Interesting, man.
Unless they have like sliding doors that close off the top and then open and let the lift come up. And then don't engage again until the lift's gone down.
Yeah, that's wild, yeah. But see, that's another thing too, like, because when you come out of the vault, because there's ghouls in the game, and then there's actual like skeletons.
Yes.
That got fried during the bombs, so they died instantly wherever they were. And when you come out of the vault and you start running back down that path, and even when you're just looking around, there's skeletons, and like they're standing like 6 feet from where you just were. And you didn't get... You see what I'm saying? Like, that's contextually for me when my mind started going, wait. I know we're playing a game, but
yeah,
this is too much for me, right?
I think Bethesda's going, well, you were far enough down the hole as it hit that you weren't incinerated.
Yeah. And I get that.
Yeah, I know. It's like the guy in the control room you see press the button that saves you because it makes the lift go down and he's like a skeleton in a chair.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so I guess moving on from the opening sequence after 30 minutes.
It's going to be a while.
Game.
There's a lot to say.
Pack in, sit down, pop some popcorn. We're going to be here a while.
Yeah, there's 3 of us this time.
Oh, man. So after you get through the whole opening sequence, I guess the next bit is sort of you start exploring the world and meeting companions and joining factions and that sort of thing. And so I don't know how do we want to tackle all that? That's a huge chunk.
I think we can just streamline the main story. We don't have to go into too much detail about every quest. It's like,
no,
we
don't
talk about the different. We can talk about the different factions and the companions at the same time, because some of the companions are related to different factions, and some of them are side quest related.
Right.
Well, first of all, what did you guys do when you come out of the vault? Did you go did you plow through the story, or did you just go in the opposite direction? Because I know my first playthrough, I kind of went through the main missions just because I was trying to figure out trophy coverage and what I was going to put up on the channel. So I think I kind of cut myself a bit short. But I know the second playthrough I did side quests and I had a whole different experience. So I was just wondering what you guys did out of the gate.
For me, I tend to do like maybe the first couple of story missions, and then I'll go off and do a load of side stuff, and then I'll come back and do a few. So I'll do it in chunks, the main story. So I'll do a chunk, do some side quests. Like if it like opens up a new area, say like the Institute, I'll go and run around there for a few hours, go and talk to people, listen to some holotapes, hack some computers, do a few side quests, and then hang out. Yeah. Go and sit in a chair and see if anyone asks me to move. That kind of thing. Yeah. Go and watch the day-night cycles so you can see the stars appear on the ceiling that are all like regimentedly placed. It's like, that's great.
Talk to 2 people, take both of their hats, then give it to the other person.
Yeah. And then when you get really bored, save the game and then see how long it takes for the population to kill you once you've mini-nuked half of them. And then reload the save because you're not an evil individual.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm the same way. I did a couple of main story things just until it opened up sort of the world a little bit, and then I went off and did side stuff for a while and then came back to the main story and sort of back and forth like that.
Yeah. I wish I would have done that on my first playthrough.
Yeah.
But
that's really the way to play.
Yeah, and I knew that obviously, but when you're going for coverage on YouTube, you kind of have to maybe not play games the way that you normally would.
Yeah. That's true.
And then sometimes that will skew how you feel the first time.
That's why I felt like I should play it a second time, kind of wipe the slate clean and play it the way that I wanted to and see if I, see how I felt playing it through the second time. And my experience was a bit different, but some of the core things, still remain the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went and did a whole like Institute playthrough because I felt, to me, like maybe the Institute wasn't as well defined as I thought it could be. And then I was like, well, I was doing all the different factions all at the same time, so I may have missed bits and pieces. Like missed out on certain quests because you end up doing them for one faction, which means you can't do them for the other. So I was like, I'll just do an Institute playthrough because I know I missed a couple of quests on that, and I didn't really spend much time there because I think my first playthrough I sided with the Railroad and the Institute's gone. So there's no way you can go back to it at the end of the game and wander around and do some side stuff and collect some information. So it was like, I could reload the save, or I'll just do another playthrough and just do their version of the main story so that I have everything in my head in a nice, like, linear fashion rather than piecemeal, because you've done some quest for the Brotherhood and then you've done some for the Railroad and you've got all their different stuff going on, that it kind of skews you away from certain areas and certain quests.
Yeah. That was actually, now that we're speaking about factions and stuff, that was actually something that I felt like could have been done a little bit differently and I would have liked better. I would have actually liked for you to have had to pick a faction much earlier than you actually had to. Because it just made the whole thing feel very confused and muddled and kind of broken up. Because I was going back and forth between the factions for the purpose of getting the achievements quicker.
Same for
Right.
me.
You know.
It's all about achievements.
So, I mean, obviously that was my choice to do that, but it would have been, I don't know. I would have liked for them to have forced you to pick a side faster and then had a more lengthy sort of end game run up where you did all of that faction's like final missions.
So like the
back to
New
back.
Vegas model where you end up specializing earlier.
Yeah, I think I preferred that. Even though it would have taken longer to get all of the achievements.
It all comes down to achievements, ladies and gentlemen.
It does.
It does
would have
for
taken
us.
longer to it would have taken longer to get the achievements that way, but I think I would have enjoyed the experience of the story better if they had forced me to play it more slowly.
I think the trouble is that sometimes us going for achievements, and like Xonevant with his YouTube content, that you end up playing it a different way, and maybe not the way that they intend you to play it, because they'd be like, well, most people will probably just side with a faction and go through, whereas we're like, we'll get these to the point of no return so that we can reload the save and
Right.
go and do the other faction. And then you're like, wait a minute, so I did this quest for who? And they had what idea about this? And it's just like, sometimes.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch on that too, and I think you guys probably are more into open world games, like with the Grand Theft Autos and Saints Row. I know you played that before, Dormouse.
I have
For
as well.
for me, and I don't know how those checkpoints and save features work, but I'm pretty sure they're similar to Fallout, where you can kind of save whenever. Am I right on that?
I think they may have a
believe
limited
so.
number of saves, but you could
Yeah.
copy files. So, yeah.
Because that kind of having that feature there doesn't make me as it doesn't pressure me into making choices, because I'm like, if I mess up, I'll just reload. I'll just create these little, save points. And Dark Souls, we've all played Dark Souls. It has a very unique saving feature where it kind of just saves as you go, and you can't just, if you kill somebody, they're just gone. You can't just go back. You have to start a whole new game. And I'm not saying they should rewrite the rules on these things. I'm just saying that, when it comes down to picking a side, or I wonder what happens if, because there's people in the Commonwealth that you come across and you can enter dialogue with them. Like there was one lady that she says, help, help, help. I forget where it was. I may be in Lexington or one of those places. And you follow her into this building, and then they ambush you. You know what I mean? And I remember when she first said help, help, I was like, this is probably a trap. You know what I mean?
I said
But
exactly the same to myself.
Yeah.
Me too.
But I saved it, and I think a lot of people, if you think about how many times you save in this game, it's like you're given a choice, and without making instead of just making the choice and going with it,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
It's not set
I'm
in
just
stone.
I'm just gonna save it, and then I'll play it both ways, and then I'll choose. And I don't know, for me, it kind of just it doesn't force me to make a choice, and it doesn't force me to live with that choice. Now, granted, I don't have to reload, right? I don't, so I get that too. But just knowing that I can, kind of takes me out of the moment with these open world games. Not just with this game, but a lot of open world games. That's just me, though.
Yeah. I like being able to save wherever. Especially when there's so many opportunities for things to mess up.
Go wrong.
Well, for that reason, Daddy likes to say.
We all do.
Yeah. But I don't know. I like the save system. I think and I don't think that I didn't reload very much. I reloaded
I
to do
didn't
the
reload
achievements at
for
the
that
end.
reason. It's like I'll play the game the way I want to play it, and I may save. I may redo a certain quest to see how it ends, but I'll always choose the same ending because that's how I would play it. It's not like I'll save it and then I'll go with which one I want. It's like, no, I know which one I want to do.
Yeah.
It's just I want to see what the other one is, and then reload my original.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, it's really funny. With these RPG things, I tend to play it the exact same way every time.
So
with minor differences, like if for whatever reason a quest didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to, or whatever, and it's like, and I know that maybe doing it a different way would end up a little bit differently, I might do that one different, but most of the major choices, I tend to always pick the same thing. Because I play it as a true, like, I'm playing a role, and I choose what I would choose. And so I just do that. I choose what I would choose every time, because I would always choose the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's me.
Yeah.
So
and I was that way too. Every choice I made in the game, even though I would quick save or whatever, I didn't reload back and like do something different, except for the trophies, because I didn't want to play through the game that many times. For the last the faction trophies or whatever. But I think just knowing that I could, the choices were not as impactful as they would have been if I knew there was no turning back. Mm-hmm. For me, at least, they weren't as impactful. Because when I play Dark Souls, I'm like, man, I could kill this dude right here, but I can't get their spells. They're locked out. Whatever. Trophies too. You had to play back through and get the trophies from this person. If I play back, I had to play back through again. And with these games, I never feel that pressure of that every choice actually matters, because I can just reload if I want to, and that kind of pulls me out of the element a little bit when I play.
Cool. So, how did you guys feel about the companions, both in character and in mechanics?
I feel like there was a mixed bag. I'd say probably split about half, with half of them being interesting and well written, and others lacking depth and personality and character development. But then that might be to do with me not being, having all of the companions with me at different times to advance their stories. Mm-hmm. But some of them felt like that their stories were tied to the main story, because they were faction related, like Dance and Preston and Deacon, I think, and X or C something, whatever the Corsa was from the Institute. Those were the ones that tended to not really, the ones that I didn't really care for, because they felt like their story was like written already, whereas the other ones you interacted with more, and they had side quests that you could go on with them to advance their story. So like Piper, you could talk to more, and then I think Valentine, you could do some cases for him, and Curie, who I haven't been able for some reason to get to like me, you can do at least one quest for her, and I know that Dormouse got Kate up to a good level. Yep. So yeah, and then Dogmeat, which I liked because he didn't say much.
He was a quiet one.
He was a quiet obstacle.
Yeah, he was an obstacle, all right, that's for sure.
Oh Lord.
I liked the character interface with them most of the time, but sometimes it was like you'd have a conversation with Preston and he'd wander off halfway through the conversation and just end it, so you couldn't progress.
Or someone else would wander into the screen and like push you out of the way.
And I think we all experienced it, where we've dismissed a companion and then spent a couple of hours trying to find out where the hell they've gone, because there's no tracking on them. It's like it doesn't tell you which settlement you've accidentally sent them to, or like your Piper is off doing a quest on her own.
Like, where is my girlfriend? She's just off. She's just off at this quest. Didn't tell me she was going to go there. I sent her to Sanctuary. Or she said, see you later. And then I just can't find her. and she's off at the start of a quest. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like a side quest, not even like a main quest. Just a random side thing. She's there. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I just try. I would send everybody to Sanctuary, and I still couldn't find them in Sanctuary.
I sent all of mine to the Red Rocket garage because it was small.
That's probably what I should have done. I ended up scrapping everything in Sanctuary just so I could see everything.
Same.
And then I could find them. Yeah,
I built a wall around the outside as well so they couldn't get out.
Yeah, dude. Just so I could find them. And then sometimes you're out on a mission with them, and you're killing a bunch of super mutants or whatever, and you go through a door, and then you come out, and they're nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if that happened to you guys, but I mean, they don't show up for a while.
And then they teleport in next to you.
Yeah. That's happened to me. It's like, where are you? I'm like over encumbered, and I'm sitting here going, where are you? Where are you? I need you to carry things. I need you to carry things for me. I have all these spoons.
Because from a combat point of view, if they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you're ready to get some gear or pick up some junk or whatever, and you become you can't do anything. You're walking all slow and stuff. You gotta drop stuff. It's just inconvenient. And that part of the companion system should have been 100% flawless in my opinion, but it wasn't.
For me, I'd always carry around some of those rad stag steaks so that they give me 25 more carry weight, just in case my companion had wandered off.
Yeah.
The best one for me was I went to Diamond City, I went to one of the traders, and was like interacting with them, turned around, Piper had gone. And I was like, where has she gone now? So I was looking around. She'd gone over to the stall that sells the meat and was just cutting up a hunk of meat for no apparent reason. She'd just gone over there. And I was what are you doing?
Yeah, they just go and they sit down randomly.
Yeah. That's why I put one chair in Sanctuary, so I knew if she sat down somewhere, I know where she is.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, so let's go through the different characters and we'll see what experiences we had with them. So I guess the first one you get is Codsworth.
He was fun.
You like Codsworth?
I did. I liked him. That's
quirky.
The one that's the one I'm using as my companion for trophies for the guide I'm putting together. He's real easy to get. I mean, all you gotta do is be nice to everybody, and you get, it's real easy to get.
And if you're randomly crafting stuff, he looks over your shoulder and loves
he looks at you like you're a god, like, oh, you just worked on some power armor, +1, baby. Yeah, he was cool to me. I think he made some very silly, quirky statements during combat and all this kind of stuff. So I liked him. I didn't have any issues with him.
Yeah, I had no issues with Codsworth either.
Yeah, me too. I thought he was funny. I liked the sense of humor, so I liked him too. And he was kind of a beast in combat too.
Early on, at least. Yeah. He's got the flamethrower and everything.
I like Dogmeat's sense of humor as well.
Me and Dogmeat, we
that's what
we got
I mean.
Off to a bad start.
His sense of humor
did. Yeah, he was good for carrying things, and then after that, it was all downhill for me and my boy, man. I ran into that glitch I was telling you guys about during the one mission where you're looking for Kellogg, and you're hunting down all the cigars and all that kind of stuff, and he just got in front of a door and became just like a statue, man. He wouldn't move, and I thought maybe I had commanded him, like by accident, to stand there. And so after about 5 minutes of trying to get it to move, I was like, well, maybe it's my fault that Dogmeat is being a loser right now. So I clicked on him and I need to move him. So I commanded him to go somewhere else. He didn't move. He looked at me like I was crazy. And I had to reload my game, which started me all the way back at the sequence where you're talking to Nick at the house or whatever in Diamond City. So it put me back quite a ways. I wasn't too pleased about that. So me and Dogmeat, no, we didn't get along too well.
Dogmeat. I like Dogmeat. I thought Dogmeat was cute. I couldn't find Dogmeat for the majority of my playthrough though, because I sent him to Sanctuary, And I found like one of the dog houses, and I was like, oh, I'll just stick this right in the middle. And I was like, okay, and he'll just come there. No. And I'm like, where is dog meat? I just never saw him. And then I realized, like, partway through, and I think
I told you.
You told me.
You do realize there's 3.
There's more dog houses, and so I went and hunted around, and then I moved them all to the middle. Yeah. So that I could find the stupid dog if I wanted to. But for the majority of the playthrough, he was just a non-entity for me because I couldn't find him.
I placed all 3 of mine next to each other so we could choose whichever one he wanted to go in.
And I think that could have just been easily solved with just, I don't know, maybe a specific color. Because, you know, in your HUD, you got the little...
or something
Yeah, just give me a red marker or something.
You could have had maybe like a companion app in your Pip-Boy that you could...
Even give me the ability to give them a color. You know what I mean? Something. I just feel like that's one of the areas that could have just been easily fixed, and it was overlooked somewhere in the process of designing this game, and that's some of the areas that I feel like the game falls short on, right?
Yeah.
Because when you can't, because to me your companion system is a gameplay mechanic. It needs to work. And when it doesn't, it's a big deal. Like you become overcumbered, you can't run, you can't do this, you can't fight sometimes in battle. Maybe you're playing on survival and you need that companion to do something for you. And so when these things aren't working, that's a big deal for me as a player. So, and I think it could have just been easily solved.
Yeah, like if you had a companion, like you were saying, a companion app in your
like
Pip-Boy,
a quest marker.
So that you could just mark them, and then it would give you a little marker to follow to get to where they were. Yep. All right. So other companions, Piper obviously was one of my favorites.
She was great for me too.
I really liked her, like the personality. Just, she was the one I went with the majority of the playthrough.
I felt like, and I haven't played with all the companions, mind you, but I felt like she had some of the best, like, expressions, and like her lip sync was somehow better than everybody else's.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about her. She just actually had a character. Like she had some life, some spunk, and I really enjoyed that. Now I didn't play with her a long time because I'm of course going for trophies with my guide or whatever.
Yeah.
But the times I did play with her, I was like, she's cool, man. And there's a couple other ones that I like too, which we'll get into. But a lot of the NPCs for me, or the companions, just were lifeless, and they didn't really have a lot of character to them. So she was by far, and definitely like my top 3 was Piper.
I would put Valentine in there for me as well, because I spent a fair amount of time.
That's one of my top 3 as well. Yeah.
With him, just a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
he's
quite dry like me. I was like,
yeah. And
it's me as a synth.
Yeah. No, Valentine was also very good. I think that maybe the difference for a couple of them was that they were meant to like be part of the story, and their character was written as more integral to the main plot, whereas other ones like McCready, who is the guy from Good Neighbor. Good Neighbor.
Yeah.
That you can just hire.
Anything with him.
Like, I never did anything with him.
Actually, I made him a trader between 2 settlements. I haven't seen him since.
Supply line.
Yeah, he's a supply line.
So his character could be interesting, but because I never really went around with him, and he didn't have a lot of like dialogue that was part of any story or quests or anything that you saw before you picked him up, like there's no character there. But yeah, I liked Nick, I liked Piper, I liked Kate, although her character was not as fleshed out. I liked Curie. although I have not finished. Although I haven't finished her quest line yet, so I think that's going to be interesting to find out. I haven't really rolled around with Strong much, the super mutant.
No, I didn't either.
He's funny.
Yeah.
He's a funny one.
He's looking for the milk of human kindness, and then he thinks it's actually milk.
Yeah, he's my other one that I like, my top 3.
Nice.
Cool.
He was fun to roll around with.
Yeah, next time I do a playthrough, I'll try and roll around with some different companions.
Me too. And then you've got, who else? Hancock, who I liked, but I never really took around, so I don't know.
Hancock isn't my companion as yet.
Yeah, I haven't played with him yet either. Nope.
I may or may not have killed his second in command.
Yeah.
He's not best pleased.
Yeah. Well, he liked me because I did not do that, and and so I have him.
Well, I have another part of his quest to do, so hopefully I'll end up with him.
Nice.
Dance.
Dance. Oh my god.
Who doesn't dance?
Dance. Oh man.
You mean Aiden Pierce 2.0?
Yeah, Aiden
No,
Pierce.
it's Aiden Pierce in power armor. And the power armor's made out of paper mache on a cardboard cutout.
Yeah, man. This Joker.
He was a robot in more senses than one.
Yeah.
He was a robot because he's
that
the Sith.
helped his character for me. It really helped his character for me because I was like, oh, okay. So he was a robot. He felt like he was a robot, and it's because he was.
Yeah.
So that worked.
Yeah, he was just too military for me, man. Like he didn't. I wanted him to cut back and hang loose for a second. Let's go kill him. We're in power armor, bro. Let's go kill some stuff. And he was just always real formal and to the point. And I don't know. Didn't really get into that.
Even when you get his interaction with you up to the highest maximum level, he's still fairly wooden.
Yeah.
Because I took him around for quite a while, because I was doing Brotherhood stuff, and it's like, oh well. I mean, I didn't kill him.
Because he has no actual personality. He's just military guy, generic military guy. Hoorah! Let's go.
Hoorah!
And it's not even like, let's go do some stuff. It's like, isn't it amazing that we're part of the Brotherhood? Isn't it amazing that we can do, help people by being a part of the Brotherhood? It's like, just shut up.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying.
Then we have Preston, who was the lead Boy Scout, but at least he wasn't like a Minuteman Dance.
It's true. He was slightly more interesting than Dance, but not by much.
Nah, yeah, I didn't do too much with Preston, man. I mean, I finished the whole quest line and did the castle and all that kind of stuff, but what was her name? Ronnie? What was her name?
Yeah, Ronnie with the hat.
She was way better.
Like she had more character than Preston did.
She was made of iron and nails.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
Yeah. So I liked when I got to the castle and she was doing her thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Preston, I don't know, man. That Joker, he got some issues. He need to get worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. And was that everybody? Talk about all of them?
I feel like we've missed one. But I can't think of it.
Deacon from the railroad. I never took him around, and I thought he was sort of a douche face.
He just lied all the time.
He lied all the time, and then he was super flirty with my character, and I was like, just get out of here.
Yeah, he was doing the whole dress up stuff, and because I know that's like his shtick. He dresses up,
and he has facial surgery every couple of years.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad that they tried to give him a character, though.
Yeah.
But it's just not the character that I felt cool with, right?
The weirdest one for me was when I sent him to the Red Rocket garage. I walked around the corner, and he's in like some wasteland get-up. I walked around, talked to Nick. When I went back, he was bald and in some other uniform. He'd like changed in the time frame that I'd been there.
Yeah, dude. He's random, man.
He's really strange. Oh, the Corsair.
Right, yeah.
He's just a robot. built to kill, basically.
I never even sent Deacon or that courser to my settlement.
No.
I didn't either.
I just left them where they were.
The courser I found by accident at the location that he starts, like you meet him at, where you go and reclaim that synth. I just ran into him again randomly, and I was like, oh, it's a courser who's going to... Wait a minute, he's a named one, and why is he talking to me? Oh, he's a companion. Oh, yeah, that guy. Then I sent him to Sanctuary. But, he bugged for me on my Institute playthrough where I couldn't get him as a companion until I'd finished the whole, like, Institute story.
Wow.
It's weird.
And also,
interesting.
For Dormouse and I, Preston's bugged, where he just says the same piece of dialogue over and over again, and you can't hand quests into him or take him as a companion.
Yep, he is a bugged piece of poo.
Is that before or after you beat the game?
It's after.
After.
That sucks.
Basically, if you don't... I think even if you... there's a evacuation alarm in the Institute that if you go and hack the computer, if you don't sound that, he says you killed everyone in the Institute and doesn't seem to talk to you. But
he just keeps saying that over and over, the same dialogue.
I've heard people say that even if you do that on like the Brotherhood ending, he still does that. He's still broken.
Yeah, it did that for me because I did the evacuate button thing. And, I know it went off because I heard it going, burp, burp, everybody get out. And, and he still says the same thing to me, like, you killed everyone, how dare you? And then you're like, okay. And then you go back to talk to him again, and he's like, you killed everyone, how dare you?
Oh,
like,
man, that's horrible.
I came up with a method to fix him, but it didn't work.
Oh.
It was a mini nuke.
A mini nuke to the face.
Mini nuke to the face.
Yeah.
That usually solves every problem in that game, son.
And then he got back up again. Because they're all, immortal.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are having issues with that. I've read some forums. A lot of people are having issues with the fact that you can't murk everybody.
Mm-hmm. There was one particular side quest I was doing that made me immortal. For like nearly the whole game, because it's to do with like it's called the Confidence Man, and you basically help this guy in a pub by getting in a fight with two other patrons, but the two other guys are immortal, you can't kill them in the fight, and somehow their immortality brushed off on me as I was pummeling them, and then I couldn't die. So the funniest one for me was I went to the glowing sea and stood in the most irradiated puddle I could find. So I had no health bar left. And then when I tried to take Rad away, the game hadn't just done one bars full of radiation. It had done about 7, but I couldn't see them because it pushed them off the edge of the screen. So I was there with about 7 Radaways for a good couple of minutes just going, why can I not get... Have I bugged myself? Oh, it's finally come back. I was like, that's mad that was a thing.
Like you would have killed yourself 7 times over.
Yeah. But
that is crazy, dude. I think my crazy one was just not having a gun. Like my gun just went away when I hit my Pip-Boy button. There was no Pip-Boy. You hear the sound effects, but there's nothing. So like it was game breaking for me. I had to reload.
Yeah.
And that fixed it. I mean, I probably could have got through the game because I still had my reticle on the screen.
But
so I mean, I could tell where I was shooting at. But obviously, I can't switch guns, so eventually I'm gonna run out of bullets.
Yeah, did you have a heads-up display still?
No, I had nothing. I couldn't do.
Yeah, that
no
wouldn't
HUD.
work for me.
I couldn't quick change weapons. My hotkeys
you wouldn't know
or
what
whatever
your
you
health
call
was either, so you just died for no apparent reason.
Yeah, nothing. So I had to reload.
Yeah, there's been a few bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
None.
Please? I've
none
seen people
game
online
breaking
with
for me, thankfully, other than the fact that it got a bit boring not being able to be killed.
Yeah.
I've seen people online with upside down Pip-Boys. Like their arm comes up, but it's completely upside down. That's wild.
That's
They've
weird.
broken their arm off.
But I think that's mainly on PC, though. I think.
Yeah, I think PC got hit the worst. But it seems like PC gets hit the worst with a lot of the games that come out like
They
at
do,
the same
don't they?
time as the consoles. Because I think
They do.
GTA was broken and a Batman was definitely broken.
Yeah. Do you think it's because they figure it'll be easier to fix the PC version to put out like patches and stuff.
It could be that they're just trying to go for a small range of specifications, because PCs can have, completely different specs between different people.
Right.
And then, you're trying to play the same game, and it's like, no, I don't run on this piece of software, sorry.
Yeah, I think a lot of it...
probably it.
Yeah, I'm not a tech guy, but I think a lot of it also has to do with which system are you going for first? Like, are you trying to make a PC game and port it to console, or are you trying to go console and port to PC?
Yeah,
and I think whoever gets the port
is the one
gets
that gets
the short
the problems.
end.
Because they're not going to build two different games or two different engines to run it.
Yeah, so. But I mean, that's just my level of thinking. I know sometimes they have multiple teams working on each platform, but some of these studios, they don't have this kind of resource. They have to just make it, and then the same team has to like port it over. Yeah, and it can't be easy in my mind. To do that, especially because, like you said, PC has such a crazy range of stuff that you can do. I think that's why a lot of times the PC games, when you go into the options menu, the settings, there's like nothing. And I know a lot of PC players like to have a ton of settings and all this stuff that I don't even know what it is because I don't really do a lot of PC gaming, but you get my point. And then the settings are not there. And I think it's because it was designed for console first. And I think that's why a lot of PC players hate console players, is because, you know what I mean? The market tends to take care of us most of the time first, and then they get kind of whatever's left.
Yeah, and then they have to do the work.
Their modding community has to come through.
Make sure that it works for them.
Right. So, gameplay. We can move straight forward from glitches to gameplay, right?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
How did you guys feel about the sort of overall core mechanics?
I felt like this game was a shooter first and an RPG second. That's my thoughts. I felt like that the shooting and the combat took first priority over things like I really wanted to see in the game, which is good speech dialogue, choices that matter during speech dialogue. A lot of times you could just choose any of the speech dialogue options, and you would eventually just get back to the same ending anyway. I wanted it to be more or less where I felt like I gotta make the right choice, and then I'm stuck with whatever I get. So I just felt like it was more of a shooter, and then the RPG side of things kind of took the backseat with the speech dialogue. Now, obviously, the whole game was an RPG, but you get my point. When I was interacting with people, I never felt like I was going to make a mistake. Because I just felt like all these roads are going to lead back to me getting my way with you anyway. So, but the combat was good. I mean, I did feel like they made a lot of improvements with the gunplay. You didn't really have to be in VATS as much. At least for me, I felt like I could just shoot through the game. And really the only time I ever got into VATS is if I either was overwhelmed or, enemy got super close. Then I would hop in right quick and shoot them. But the RPG core gameplay mechanic with the dialogue options, I really was not as impressed as I was with the older games.
I think they streamlined the dialogue options more in this one, because in the other ones they'd have the full text in lines on the screen, whereas this one felt more like Mass Effect with, like bullet points, and it felt a little bit more limited in the direction you could go in the dialogue, like you were saying. And the core mechanics for shooting, melee, grenades, that was fine. That worked really well. So, I think, for me, I've completely lost my train of thought. Give me a minute. Hold on. I'll remember it. I remember what it is. The VAT system I felt was better on this one because it didn't stop time. Which meant that you couldn't just sit there and be like, oh, target this one, and this one. It was like, oh, they're moving. I really need to kind of be on my toes, and I'll target this, and this, and hope for the best, rather than, it doesn't give you the optimal ability to target everything, which I felt actually made it run smoother, because you're not just like, and I'm in combat and now it's stopped and I'm in VATS, and it makes it flow better because you're not just slowing the time down. You're slowing the time down rather than stopping the time. So you have to think quickly. So that was a lot better for me than stopping time with VATS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think VATS worked well. It's like you gotta hurry up and make the shot, or the mole rat is going to eat your face.
Or explode if they had those mines attached to them.
Yeah,
right.
man. Yep.
Oh my god, those super mutant
super mutants with
suiciders.
Football nukes.
I love that there was an achievement called Touchdown.
Yeah.
If you went and hugged one and got blown up.
Yep. But yeah, the gunplay I think worked really well. I really didn't spend too much time in VATS. Mostly I just shot.
Same for me.
Because you could do it pretty much like any other FPS. I liked the modding and crafting and stuff. I thought that it was awesome to be able, because I used basically the same 10mm pistol for the majority of the game until I got another 10mm pistol that was a legendary one that was special, and so then I used that one.
Yeah, I did the same with my short combat rifle and named it Old Faithful.
And so, but I liked that. I liked the ability to like change it up, and then, if you get better skills and whatever, you can make better weapons and better armor and whatever. I also really liked being able to use the ballistic fiber to upgrade your regular clothes.
Yeah, that was so nice.
That was really cool, because that means that you could really play fashion Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And actually have some protection. So that was neat. As far as other stuff, I would agree that, the dialogue felt limited. I liked that your character was voiced. I did like that. And the cutscene, well, not cutscenes, but like dialogue scenes felt more like, it was more like Mass Effect-y, where it would have cuts between you and the other character talking and whatever. So it felt more like a conversation than the other Fallouts. I don't know why they couldn't have still written out what you were going to say, though.
Yeah.
Because there are sometimes, not often, but sometimes where I'd pick something and it'd be like, I did not think that was the direction that was going to go in.
Same for me.
And so I wish that they would have just still had the little rows of text, just like in the other Fallouts. I think there was nothing wrong with that system. And I think in the other ones you had more options. You had more speech options. And I guess maybe they streamlined it because they didn't want to record that many lines of dialogue. But there had to have been a better way to make the dialogue better, because there was just, I think... there was a pervasive lack of depth in the dialogue for me. It was basically like, we're going to say just enough so that you can have your next quest marker, and that's all we're going to say. And I think that was a real negative in terms of main story, because you weren't able to have enough character development and depth in that plot line because there was not enough dialogue for me.
With the new system, sorry, just quickly, it felt like they needed like an investigate function, like Mass Effect has, where it goes off into another little tree if you want more information. Because it felt like they'd had that one question for us on the Y at the top, but it was just one. It didn't give you any, like, I want to kind of ask a different question, but I can't because that's all they give me. Which was a little frustrating.
It was just, and sometimes they had multiple ones of those, and then sometimes it was like you'd ask a question and it would have the three things, and then I don't want to talk about this anymore. But it just overall, there was just not enough.
It was inconsistent with being able to ask more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there came a point, and I forget how far I was into the game. I just stopped caring about the dialogue. I just kept pressing X. I just did. Like I just stopped caring completely about, because it was like, especially when the speech challenges came up, and I think my first character I played, I think he was maybe like a 4 or 5 charisma or something like that. But I remember in the old Fallout games, you know, if you had like high speech, you maybe had high science, all those things, you know, played into how far along you could go on with the dollar tree. So with this one though, it just seemed like it came down to just charisma, and there were speech challenges that I passed with 1 charisma, and you know, like we get XP, and it was like, and if you didn't get it, like if you said, hey, I want more, like if the speech option was press X for, or press square for more caps, like maybe somebody was trying to get you to do something, you wanted to, you know, get more caps. If you hit more caps and you passed it, well, you got XP and you got more caps. But if you didn't, you still did the quest anyway. Like the guy didn't even get mad at you. It was like, man, I'm not giving you no more money. Still want to do the quest?
And
there was
I
like
also found you could save mid-conversation. So that if you failed it, you could instantly reload the conversation and do it over again.
Or walk away, because this game has that walk away option where you can just walk away from people and that's it. Like you're not.
It's like, I want to get out of this dialogue now.
Yeah.
and then reinstigate the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it starts over.
Speech check.
I would have rather it been more of a firm, you know, like if I do ask this dude for more caps and he says no, I may not get any caps. I may still have to do the quest, but I might not get paid at all. Like I wanted there to be a repercussion for me making this dude mad. And maybe there was
one quest for me that did that.
Yeah. There was one where I asked for more caps, and he was like, okay. And then you could ask again, because usually there were multiple levels. And so I asked again, and I failed it, and he was like, yeah, you got greedy. And so it bumped me down to the starting, like the base level.
Yeah, but you still got caps, right?
Yeah, I still got some.
Like I would have. I guess what I'm saying is I would have wanted it to just like give me no caps.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to be, you know what I mean? Like for me, that would have been the right quote unquote punishment for like, you know, pressing for that. And I wish there would have been more play in there with the perks and stuff that I picked. You know, whether I'm high in intelligence or whatever, there's certain people I can talk to, and it seemed like that the old game just did that perfectly.
Like if you had more medical knowledge,
right,
you would have a different dialogue option that would open up a different line of conversation with somebody.
Well, like someone's a mechanic, so you could talk to them with the repair.
Exactly, and I think that's why a lot of people, because if you can go on the forums and stuff, a lot of people are like, they feel like their choices when you're first creating your player, they don't really mean as much, because once you get out there and you start leveling up, because none of the dialogue really matters to that degree. Well, it doesn't really matter what you sink your points into at the beginning, and it doesn't really matter what you sink your points into afterwards either, because if I wanted to level up the medic perk, you know, that's not going to help me in any of the dialogue trees anyway. So I'm just strictly leveling it up just to get my stim packs or give me more health or whatever, not for any extra added benefit. And I think that's where the depth gets lost in Fallout 4.
Well, and the depth for me too came from, you know, the main story. Like I felt like there was not enough dialogue once you got to the Institute with Sean. You know,
that was a tough one for me to get past.
I went through the game again and specifically went round the Institute and talked to everyone I could and looked to like every computer and tried to find every holotape I could find. And it still doesn't really tell you what direction they're going in. All you really know is they're making synths and doing bioscience. And that's about it. And Sean basically just kind of, he says that your interaction with him is strange, which it is, but you just don't find out what their motives are. And I can understand, you know, when you're joining to start off with, they don't know which faction you're working for, so they're not going to tell you any information. But if you follow the Institute storyline through, they make you director. And you should at least have some knowledge about what research they're doing now and what their plans are for the future. Because I know it's like another faction, like in any of the Elder Scrolls games or Fallout games, where you become leader and then you never really do anything. It's just a title. But in this one, it felt like it's tied to the main story. You need to make a decision on which faction you choose, and it just felt to me like the Institute was the weakest out of all of them, because they're built up to be the bad guys. They're taking people, they're building synths, but you're never given any like concrete evidence whether they're trying to use synths to be a slave race to work for you, or are they making the Gen 3 ones so that they can download your consciousness into it as a new form of humanity, or are they going to put implants in you? And it's just like, to be the antagonist, they felt weak.
Mm-hmm. They definitely did.
Did either one of you not see that that plot point happening, like where Sean ended up being the father or whatever? Did anybody not see it? Because I saw it coming like a mile away.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen.
I knew he would be older, but I didn't know if he'd be in charge.
Okay.
Like, I was like, he's going to be like 40, 50 something. He's not 10 years old.
I assumed that he was going to be older, and I assumed that he was going to be in charge.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I missed that the first time through rushing through the game, that he was like the father he talks about when you look through Kellogg's memories, and it's little Sean. It's like the father he talks about is actually the guy in charge of the Institute and not just his surrogate father.
Right.
Which is kind of where... This is kind of where it goes crazy for me, right? Because when you're hunting down Kellogg, you get... Unless I miss something... And like you said, you went around and you talked to everybody in the Institute. You looked at every term. I didn't do that, so maybe I missed something. But I felt like they spent more time developing my relationship between, whether you're a female or male at the beginning of the game, doesn't matter, between me and Kellogg and my son than like me and father. Like, with Kellogg, you get to see him as a kid. He's reading comics. He's got a bad childhood, his parents, whatever. You see him. Yeah. I mean, that whole memory sequence was absolutely cool, in my opinion. And you could
that was one of the best missions in the game for
wasn't
me.
It, though? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was for me, too.
You're in someone's head, and the pathways are made up of synapses. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah, and
it was great.
You could just watch it, or you could actually talk to them and get their thoughts. And I thought, this is awesome. And I was like, maybe they'll do something like this for father, son, Sean. No, man, unless there's one in there that I don't know about. I don't know how. I felt like the memory den was a wasted opportunity in this game. I think it would have been cool if you could do that with a lot more people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And with all your companion characters, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, like it would have been
if you got them to a high enough affinity, or like they were your love interest,
right?
They wanted you to see, experience their life.
And unless I missed a plot point here, because like you said earlier, Dormouse, once I got near the end and it was all like faction based, it was cluttered to me. There were times where I was talking to Sean, father, and he would tell me that he knew that I was kind of engaging with another faction, and I had to make some choices, and I knew as a player that I was playing them both, and my character knew that he was playing. It felt weird to me, right? And so it kind of got all cluttered there at the end for me. But do we know why? Because Kellogg, right? He was worked on by the Institute, right, to live longer?
Yeah, he's like 100 years old.
Right.
He's a cyborg, basically.
He's a cyborg. That's the implants keep him alive.
So why wasn't anything done for Sean? Like, he just was dying.
They moved away from that research
Is that what it was?
It's
Okay, because
like-
I must have missed
I
that.
read
somewhere.
on one. No, it's on one of the terminals. So
Yeah, I
don't
read
read
that terminal too.
You don't read
but
that terminal. You don't find out some key plot point.
See,
That they moved
I
away
don't
from
think
that
that's a good way to
research.
tell a story.
No, it's really, really not. It's really.
I don't like
No.
like Dark Souls. Big fan of Dark Souls. I don't like the fact that I'm not against everything being attached to a weapon or a piece of armor. That's cool because it's a loading screen. What else are you gonna do, right? But if you're trying to tell me a story, maybe I'm not the kind of player that gets all the armor or all the gear. Then I'm missing part of the story. It's not an efficient way to tell a story. You know what I mean? Because it's only going to pertain to the people who really go out there and hunt it down. And I think
that's why I did it, to see whether it was actually there was some digging. But you go through solely doing the Institute. You do the main story, and it's basically just like he doesn't trust you, and then he builds Synth Child as a replacement for himself, so that you can interact with him and have a life, kind of. Because that's when you go and talk to Synth Child with the Institute ending, he gives you a hollow tape from Sean that says, "Our time together was strange. You can have the kid so that you can try and have a normal life with him." So maybe Bethesda was going with, you don't interact with Sean because you're going to end up with Synth Kid instead, and that's what our end game is. Is like the Sean interaction isn't really going to matter too much because you're going to end up with a version of him that's young that you can live your life with. And it's like, but he isn't the real Sean. And it's like
And you don't spend much time with him unless you play a lot after the main story.
Yeah. And you don't spend much time with... There's no extra dialogue with Sean, bar like one conversation. Like, you do the main story stuff, talk to him, and then when you try and talk to him between missions, he doesn't have anything to say.
It's weird, man. Yeah.
And I only found out he's dying of cancer because I read it on a terminal.
Yeah, because it
From
doesn't
his
tell
doctor.
you. It doesn't tell you what he's dying from straight up.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't on a terminal. It was one specific dialogue on one of the trees. So, like, I think I pressed Y instead of pressing A that time, and he said, "Oh, I've got aggressive cancer."
Oh yeah,
And it's
see,
like-
I was in full X mode at that point.
Exactly.
I was X and everything.
Exactly. So
Me
if
and
you
X were
press
getting
Y,
along.
Let's say 25% of people press. We'll say they do them equally. 25% of people press Y. Only 25% of people are going to know, unless they look it up on the wiki, that he's dying of cancer, which I
Yeah.
think is quite important.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Kind
find
of
your
important.
son. He's 60 years old. You don't have much time with him, and it's like it's a main plot point, and suddenly it's like they did all the other factions really well for me. They're well defined. You know what the Brotherhood wants. You know what the Railroad wants, and you know what the Minutemen want. But like the Institute just feels like we're gonna go and hide in a hole in the ground and build robots, and this is gonna save the world. How? Oh, well, we're also gonna make some crops that grow faster. Right.
And we're gonna screw around with the FEV.
Yeah.
virus.
and we're gonna build a reactor. Okay. And this saves everybody how? Oh well, we tried to save the world before and build a government that was controlled by us, but it failed, so we've given up on the surface. Is effectively what it kind of... That's how I read some of the material to say. Is like they tried to build a government to save the Commonwealth. It didn't work, so they're now just going to go and hide and and build more synths. And as the antagonist in the game, or one of them, depending on which faction you go for, it's like it kind of falls a bit flat on its face for me. I was a supporter of the main story, and now I'm kind of destroying it.
We're tearing you down, baby.
I mean, it's just...
But the point is, the evidence is there. It's like, how much
is.
digging did I have to do? I ran around the Institute for 3 hours trying to find stuff that really wasn't there. I was like, is this all we have? It's just sad.
It's just the lack of... It feels like they had a really good idea. Like, I think the idea for this main story is better than the main idea for any of the other Fallout games.
It is.
that
Even
we've
though it's
played.
basically Fallout 3 story reversed. It's still good.
Sure.
You know? It's still good.
It's good, And then it's just the execution. They just don't flesh it out enough. It's like they had the bare bones for the plot lines, and then they were like, okay, cool, we have our story. And then they were like, okay, now let's really focus on, building settlements.
And that
instead of fleshing out the main story. And it's like, come on.
I think it's a contradiction, right? Like, if they want me to truly role play and be the character that I want to be, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, right? They done jack that up because they told you who you were.
Yep.
They told you who you were. So you're done. And you can still role play after that and obviously kind of forget about that. But, it's still there. And then you just keep rolling through the game. Like I said, after that first initial cutscene, it was all downhill for me because I was not connected. And then the sequence where my wife gets shot by Kellogg, and then I hop out, after I've come out of being froze, there's like one or two little dialogue things. I'm like, open up. And then it's like, all right, moving on. There's no like moment where I cry or I like, do anything. I'm just, all right, well, she's dead. There's no connection.
It's because you're numb. Because you've been frozen.
Yeah, I'm numb. Yeah. But those issues kept. I was already seated with those emotions within the first 30 minutes of the game, and I could not shake them as I continued because it just kept getting worse. You meet Preston. He's just a cardboard character. Can't get in him. The next person I meet is Dance. All right, that didn't work out either. Dog Meat's not doing his thing. Like, it just kept dominoing after that. And by the time I get to what they're giving is like the climactic part of this game, I just do not care. Like, I'm in pure trophy mode. I'm hitting X. I just want to get all the trophies and deuce them out. And I'm not saying it's garbage. I'm not one of these people that says Fallout 4 sucks, because it doesn't. It's just not compelling. There's a difference between good storytelling and compelling storytelling. And they had the opportunity to give a compelling story, and they simply settled for a good one. And that's what it was.
I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of the game. If you're going into it thinking, this is going to be a great main story, sorry, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're going into it for, I want to do a load of side quests, I want to ride an invertebrate, I want to put power armor on and run around, I want to craft my own weapons, I want to try and build a settlement and hope it doesn't get everything destroyed in it in one attack, which was a bit weird. But
if you're wanting a post-apocalyptic sim,
it's great.
It's great.
And some of the main story missions were great. I would say, like, going inside Kellogg's brain was really good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
and
that was fantastic.
I would say the mission for me where the Institute hacks Liberty Prime and shoots the Predwin down was just really fun. And like Maxon appears at the end in a big suit of armor. It's like, that's cool. That was well done. And then the airship falls down on top of you and it looks like you're going to die, and the Institute teleports you to a location a little bit further away so you can see it crash. It's like, why couldn't that kind of thought and, ease of doing the story be applied to the whole thing? It just, I don't know.
Yeah. I would say the best part of the story for me was the middle section where you go and you meet Piper and you meet Nick and you're doing the stuff and you go and you kill Kellogg and then you go to the memory den and you do that whole awesome mission. Like, that was the highlight for me.
That's what I remember.
And it sucks because that was not the climax of the story.
Not at all. No.
And so, just like you guys have been describing, like, once it built the Institute up, and the Institute was interesting. I was like, this is cool. I don't necessarily know that I care about my son, because that was shoehorned onto me, and I was told to care about him, but there was no relationship there. So I don't necessarily know that I care as much about that, but I'm interested to see what the Institute is doing. And so I was excited to get there, and then you do. And I think the pacing of that was good. That, like, the point at which you find the Institute was at a good point in the overall arc. so that you could
same.
spend some time there. If you had gone there right at the end, that would have been shitty. But you had enough time to like spend there, but then you get there and it's almost like you get there and they're like giving you the little salesman pitch. Like, and here's the tour around the Institute, and isn't it nice and shiny? Aren't you glad you aren't on the surface anymore? Because that place sucks. The little pitch, where they don't, it reminds me of, like, Jurassic World, where they're taking all the investors around and like showing them, look at this thing, everything's great, look at this, and they don't show them all the like real shit that's happening.
Don't worry about that severed arm. It's fine.
Don't worry about that. So it felt a little bit like that, which makes sense at the beginning, but then it's like it never gets past that. You never learn what the true motivations are. You never learn what Sean's true motivations are. You never build any kind of relationship with him. There's no emotion coming from him. There's a little bit of emotion coming from my character. And I know, Xonevant, you played as the male character, and you said that you didn't feel like the voice actor did a fantastic job.
Nah, I think the
conveying
female
emotion
did better.
there.
The female for
did
me,
well.
She acted it well, and her interaction with Sean was like heartfelt. And there were a few dialogue options, because at one point I literally went through the entire dialogue and chose like B, 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 X, 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 just to see if I could. And there's like one of them where you say you love him, and then there's another one where you can say like, he's a monster. So it's like, cool, that's great, but that's all I'm going to get for, speaking my mind on how I feel about myself. It's like one or two dialogue.
And it's very generic. It's like you have to make a snap decision. You don't get to build any kind of actual relationship with that character so that you know whether you really like him or not. Because at this point, I feel kind of indifferent about it. And then there's that moment where it feels like it should be this big choice, whether or not you go with him and the Institute, or whether you betray him and go with a different faction. But it wasn't, and it should have been this.
I would go with any of the other factions, just because I knew what they were fighting for, and also the fact like if you go with one of the other factions, the Institute will attack you, so your hand's forced. Right. Like if you do the Minutemen story, because I'm not sure if either of you did that one because there wasn't really any achievements attached to it.
No,
I didn't.
You basically get yourself, you basically get yourself kicked out of the Institute for it to become available, and then you go and join Preston at the castle, and he says, well, you have to get enough settlements for the Minutemen to have enough troops. So I was fine, because I've got like 17. And then the Institute attacks the castle. So it's like, you have to hold them off, and then he says, okay, fine, we'll go and destroy the Institute. So it's like, the Institute is forcing people's hands. They're trying to eradicate the Minutemen because they see them as a threat. They're trying to eradicate the Railroad and the Brotherhood. But they never really tell you what they want. Whereas, like, the Brotherhood wants technology. The Railroad wants to liberate third stage synths and give them their own freedom. And the Minutemen want to help the normal people. And for me, the Minutemen is the one that I would follow because I think they've got the best rhetoric out of all of them. It's like, this is the world we've been given after the apocalypse. We'll try and make the best of it. And the way we can do that is working together. And I think in a conversation we had with Dormouse and I had, it was like they could have maybe made it so that the main story you could have influenced the factions to make them work together. So if you're director of the Institute, you could have liaised with the Railroad and said, okay, you want to liberate synths, we'll give the synths a choice. Do you want to stay in the Institute and work, or do you want to go out into the real world and have your mind wiped and have freedom that way, or even not have the mind wipe, or like work with the Minutemen? If you can bring us supplies, we can offer you like medical supplies and like a fusion reactor or something to to help with each other. Obviously, like, the Brotherhood and the Institute are not going to get along with Maxon in charge. But say if Lyons was in charge from Fallout 3, he seemed more diplomatic to try and work with people. Whereas to me, Maxon feels like he's more like an outcast.
He's
the
very
outcast
dogmatic.
From 3. They're like, we have to get technology. We have to do this. We have to do that.
And nobody else can be trusted with it.
Exactly. It's like we're the only ones that know how it should be used. And it's just like it doesn't work that way. He's just a brute force, basically. And it's military, so it's you do what I tell you to do and you're not allowed to think. And that's why Dance didn't work. Because he was a military man and that was it. That was all he was. He wasn't not anything against the military because, you know, soldiers have personalities. They have their families, they have their lives. He had nothing. He was a robot. And it's just...
Yeah. Like Pam had more personality than he did. And she didn't even have a quote-unquote personality. She was just a straight-up robot.
Yeah, some of the companions, say Piper, Valentine, Strong, maybe, had more personality than Maxon, had more personality than Father, even.
Yeah.
Because you had more interaction with them. You could talk to them the way you wanted to. Say, you know, like with Piper, for example, you could say, stay with your sister. That's the best thing for her. Or, you know, don't distance yourself. And it felt like you had real meaning to it. But it didn't feel like it was impactful enough for the main story. And actually, like, being able to talk to the two of you about it has kind of cleared it in my head to how I feel. Because I was like, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. And now it's like, well, I've done the best I can going through and playing it again. And it still doesn't sit right. It just... It feels... To me, it feels like the story could have done with another 6 months or a year of development so that they could flesh it out.
I don't see why there was a need. And this is another thing. I didn't know this, and maybe this is just something that the internet's tossing out there, but they're saying that this game has been in development for 5 years.
5 years?
Like ever since the last one?
Like 5.
Or ever since...
Yeah. Like
ever since Skyrim?
5 years. And I'm thinking...
Skyrim... No, it wasn't Skyrim 11, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how true that is, but let's just...
And New Vegas was 10 or 9?
Yeah, let's just say it's 5 years. 5 years, man. Now, I understand we've made a jump in technology, you know, for PS4,
Did they change
Xbox
their mind
One.
on the story, maybe?
But geez, man, like, this did not feel like a... This, to me, did not feel like a game that had been in development for 5 years.
No.
And that says a lot. Like, I think this game gets a lot of passes that other games just would not get. Think about it. Assassin's Creed Unity dropped, right? Everybody's freaking out over
Don't get me started.
Yeah. But I mean,
there's not enough time left in my day.
But everybody's freaking out over the bugs and glitches that they're plastered all over, you know, media outlets, and some of them are game breaking. But even the funny ones are getting scrutinized. You know, the one where you can see inside the dude's skull and like his teeth and his tongue and stuff. People are tripping out over these. They're mad. They're frustrated. They're upset. All the articles are negative. And this game comes out with bugs, some of which are game breaking. And you know, we expect that from a Bethesda game. You know, it's an open world. I don't think that a developer's creativity and a push to take gaming to the next level should get a pass when their creativity doesn't meet the technical standards that they're hoping for. I just don't think it should get a pass. If I wanted to go out tomorrow and make a flying car and the death rate was higher than cars we drive now, that's unsuccessful, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't get a pass because I tried to make a flying car, right? And I feel like that's not just games sometimes. It's just open world games in general. The bigger games, they get a pass on certain things that other games just would not.
Yeah. And well, I don't understand why this one gets such a pass on that either. Like, I didn't experience too many terrible glitches myself.
Did I.
So, whatever. But I don't understand why this game would get so much praise, because it's not like they're trying to do anything that different. I mean, yes, we have modding of the weapons and armor and stuff, which I really liked. Yes, we had creating settlements and stuff, which is cool. But other than those two things, and like having a voiced character was nice. Having a little bit more
the
depth
cinematic
to your
cutscenes, kind of when you're talking's nice.
Absolutely. I've remembered one thing that I wanted to say. I missed the slides at the end.
Yeah.
Depending on how you followed the story.
The endings were the same, man.
Fallout 3, they were all the same. Apart from like 1 or 2 slides.
Yeah. It was terrible. But yeah, like, there was nothing that different about this game from the other games, and I think that's why the main story sits so poorly with me, is because if the main story had been awesome, I think it could have been if they had given it more development time, given it more fleshing out, it could have been awesome. That could have been the thing that made this game different from Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Whereas, really, this is Fallout 3 and New Vegas over again with the same amount of bugs and glitches.
Nothing's changed.
And not much is different.
I mean,
not much is improved.
And think about the enemies too. Like, and look,
I know that more bare bones.
I know that a lot of these franchises will, like, I know Final Fantasy still has enemies that they've had since Final Fantasy 1. They'll keep reusing them, but at least they'll make new character models and they'll do something with them. A lot of these enemies are just the same. Like they're just the
look
same.
Exactly the same. Super mutants are basically the same.
It's just the same, and like you would have thought, I don't know, like 5 years, and we're on the PS4, we're on the Xbox One, PC stuff's come a long way. Like getting back to what you said. When you said earlier, 6 months to a year. There's no rush on making. There's franchises out there that you don't have to rush out the door. This is one of them. Grand Theft Auto is one of them. These are games that you could wait 10 more years to do another Grand Theft Auto game, and people would still be clamoring for this game.
I would say Final Fantasy's in there as well. Yeah,
I just feel like this game should have sat on the shelf until they could have done a new engine. Still kept all the gameplay mechanics, collecting stuff, whatever, but really flesh it out, man. Can you imagine? And that may be why, and we were talking about this the other day, Dormouse, maybe that's why they released this one so early in the life cycle of these consoles, is maybe they're going to try to squeak out a new engine by the time these consoles and give us that game. But it's just left such a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, man, this is going to be next gen Fallout. And they just took too many steps back for me on this one.
Yeah, it really just felt like more Fallout. And for some people, that's enough. A lot of people, that's enough. It's more Fallout. But
we want
yes,
Fallout
it's more
Plus.
Fallout. But I want it to be better. I don't want it to be more. I want it to be better. And I just didn't feel like it was better. It was better in some regards. I think that I liked a lot more of the companion characters, a lot more than I liked the companion characters in the other games. There were things that I liked about it, but overall, like, there was not that thing to it that tells me, like, this makes Fallout 4, in my mind, stand up above Fallout New Vegas, which I preferred to Fallout 3, which is an unpopular opinion, I know. But,
whichever one you enjoyed, it's perfectly fine.
But, it doesn't make it stand out. Let's say after the shininess of it wears off, in a couple of years, I'm not going to have a more fond memory of this game than I did with either of the other two. And so I just don't know. I feel like if it had had that stronger narrative, which it had potential to do, we wouldn't have been saying like, oh yeah, well, it's a Fallout and the main story really isn't the most important thing. And like that somehow gives them an excuse to not care about doing the main story.
And that gets me to my point. Like that's like if Uncharted 4 is coming out next year. There's nobody saying, "Oh, it's a Naughty Dog game. Don't worry about the campaign." You know what I mean? It's a Naughty Dog game. The side quest will be amazing. Now I know it's not open world, but you get my point. When you're doing a campaign, the campaign kind of has to work. Like when I buy a game, I'm not buying a game to go around and do a bunch of side quests. I don't want that to be the memory of the game. I think the side quests should enrich the world and kind of build up the world, the foundation, but it should push the narrative of the main story. It's only a kind of a crutch for the main story to kind of stand on. But when you look at if you were to look at a pie chart, it'd be like 2% would be main story that people liked it, and I feel like the other 98% would be we just like the side quest and like going around and collecting a bunch of aluminum cans and stuff. That's why we like the game, and that's fine. People can like what they want to, but I don't see how you can make a campaign for a game and then people say, well, don't expect too much because it's a Fallout game, so don't expect too much from the campaign. That just is so backwards to me. If people said that about Uncharted or any other games that come out, Gears of War, doesn't matter, nobody would buy the game. It just, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it seems like Bethesda has this history of producing games that have kind of a lackluster storyline, main story, and yet it gets a pass. Because obviously the side quests and the maps are fun. Nobody's denying that. But is that really the two legs that you're trying to stand on? Because if gamers are giving them a pass, they're never going to make a good story.
Right. I don't understand necessarily why they have to make a main story at all.
They shouldn't.
If the whole point is to like get you into the wasteland and then have you go and just sort of roam around and do stuff, then why have a main narrative at all? Why not just have you wake up from cryogenic freezing? You're in the world. You're this character who is from the past, and now go make your way in the world. Decide what you want to do. If you want to build a settlement, build a settlement. If you want a faction with the Brotherhood of Steel, do that, and they'll give you side quests. And each one of those like main side factions or whatever might have their own quest arc, but there is no quote unquote main story.
And there's no end game as such.
And there's no end game. Like, I don't understand why. Like, if they had done that and they had said, you know what, this is what we're going to focus on, then I don't think I would have had as big of a problem with it. But it's because they tried to do a main story and then they had the elements there, but then they sort of bare bonesed it. It fails. Yeah, it's to me.
I felt completely like a walking contradiction the more I played this game. I was like, okay, I don't care about this kid, but they're wanting me to go care about this kid. I already know where the kid is and what he's doing. Right? Like, I'm guessing at this point, but I've got a good hunch that this is the dude, right? And so there's no build up. I guess there's build up just for me to see if I'm right or not, but I'm fairly confident that I'm right. So am I trying to role play me in this game or not? Because my character does talk, and believe it or not, when your character speaks to me, anyways, it takes away my ability to roleplay. If I'm reading text, I can read text the way that I want to read text. You know, like the old Fallout days when you could read the entire text format, you could go, well, how would I say that? You know what I mean? Am I saying it sarcastic or am I saying it smooth? And you could literally, in your mind, make that up, right? And then you could play off what the other person is reacting to. But in this game, you do get a dual dialogue. So even if you want to say something smooth and you think that's what you're picking, the character doesn't always come out that way, and it's very flat. So I could never figure out what the game was wanting me to do. But if you rewind to the beginning of the game, and the first thing I see is me either coming out of the vault, like coming out of that freezing chamber, not knowing what's going on, and then just leaving the vault, I'm sold. Because there's no like weird issues where my mind is saying, okay, well, the nuke just went off. I didn't die. I'm weird about that. My wife just got shot, but I didn't really react like I think I should have reacted to that. Okay. Oh, now I'm just going up to okay, now I'm in the world. What do I do? There's a huge gap there for me. And so, like you said, if they just start me off coming out of the vault and I can just do whatever I want to, I think it's a whole different quote unquote review for me, if you will. A whole different discussion. But that first 20 to 30 minutes absolutely ruined it for me as the game progressed.
Or if we take the game that we have now and just remove the kid from the storyline, I wonder how it would play out. Say like Kellogg's a mercenary who gets into the vault and kills your husband or partner for whatever reason, and you go out into the world, and then you find out Kellogg's working for the Institute, and then it leads on from there rather than, you know, your child being taken or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even you get out of the vault, and the reason you get into like Kellogg and the Institute and stuff is like you end up working with Nick, and that's the case he's on. So you follow him, and then you're like, oh, the Institute. That sounds interesting. We'll follow that storyline.
That's what I would have liked to see. You know, is that you sort of, maybe you build, I would have liked more of the pre-war stuff. So maybe like you build your character, maybe you choose what career they had, and that kind of fed into which stats
maybe
you
like
had.
a flashback sequence, like they remember
where you
back.
sort of choose kind of how you build your character, similar to like when you took the goat in Fallout 3, or when you were talking to the doc and doing the psychology tests in New Vegas, like, and build your character's backstory that way. And then you get into the vault, you get frozen or whatever, you wake up, now you're in this completely new world. You go around, you meet people. Eventually you hear about the Institute from, like, either the Brotherhood or from Piper or from Nick. You know, you start to hear about the Institute, and then, you know, it feeds into these little quest lines where you start to interact with them. Or then you start to interact with the Railroad, or then you start to interact with the Brotherhood. And that's how it progresses, you know? And then it doesn't expect you to have this connection with Father once you get to him. And
you
then,
can make up
in
your
my
own
mind,
mind
the whole
about the
thing works
Institute,
better.
rather than the game attempting to force you to like the Institute because Father's in charge. There was also, something funny, you saying about the goat test in Fallout 3. There's like a little Easter egg to it in Fallout 4 where there's a place called Covenant, I think. And to get in, you have to do a little exam, and the guy asks you the same questions near enough off the go. Like,
That's
if
cool.
you're, if you wanted to play a prank on your dad, what would you do? Like, throw a cherry bomb down the toilet or undo the pipes, you know, like that. And I was like, really? You still put this in the game, but you didn't put it in at the start, so it's there. It just doesn't make any difference.
I don't know, like, for me, I would have went all out with this. I would have done... I was talking about this the other day with you, Dormouse, like, I don't know, and I haven't fully fleshed this out, so don't, but you probably hear where I'm going with it. I would have went crazy with this story. Like, sometimes when you're just doing the typical, like, mundane story, sometimes it's best to just push it all the way to the edge, you know what I mean, and just see what happens. And with the Institute having all this technology and blah, 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 and you don't know how long you've been under. Like, even when you go under the first time in freezing and you kind of come to and you see your wife or your husband get shot, you don't know how long that's been, like how much time has passed. So, like, I would have done some crazy stuff. Like, to me, an interesting twist would have been some way to, since all this synth technology, right? I would have found some weird way to have Kellogg be your kid. Like, Kellogg is your actual kid. He doesn't know it. Maybe his memory got wiped. You can do the whole memory den crazy stuff. And then the kid that they're taking, because he doesn't know, is a synth. Like, it's all just set up. It's all just staged. Like, I would have done some crazy stuff like that, man, because I would have never saw that coming. If I get to the end of the game and I'm getting that climatic sequence and Father, who is not really my son at this point, tells me that I've already killed my kid, or that maybe I didn't, maybe I had that choice. That to me would have been like, and I haven't flushed it out, but that would have been more impactful. I've been like, what? Like that would have been a trip for me to have to go through as a player. Or do some Truman Show. You guys have seen Truman Show, right?
Yeah.
Where he's living in that enclosed world. Like you have all this vault stuff, right? So you come out of Vault 111, you think you're in the real world, but maybe that's the vault. Maybe the whole time you're just inside. Because the Institute's got all this crazy technology, right? So maybe the whole Commonwealth is just a dome that you're in. And like maybe the end of it, if you follow out the Institute storyline, is them revealing to you that you're just in a vault. Like, to me, that's the crazy mind trip I want to go on in a game like this. And instead, I just get what I got. And it's like, and I'm not saying that mine's any better, but you get my point. I want to be taken on a journey that I don't see coming. That's what I want. Whether that's good or bad or successful, whatever, is just depending on how well they pull it off and me as a gamer. But I'd rather go there and have it stretched to the nth degree than what I got. It just wasn't, it didn't do it for me, man. And that's big for me. I don't play games for side quest. I play games for that whatever story that developer's wanting to take me on. That's why I'm there. That's why I bought your game. And then I hope that the side quests and stuff kind of help enrich that. But in this case, it's completely opposite. Without the side quest, this game is, what is it? You know what I mean? It has nothing else to stand on except for the fact that you're running around collecting aluminum cans and stuff. I mean, really. Because that's
you love those aluminum cans.
Because that's what it really boils down to, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, for me, the most important thing to a Fallout game is that they get the world right. You know, that post-apocalyptic feel is there. That you have that mixture of futuristic technology with like 1950s style. And that the humor is there and it's got that sort of dark humor going on, and that you have some interesting, you know, characters and stuff to do. And I think they did all of that just fine. For me, I guess it was just that they did all of that just fine, and it was the same, really, with a few improvements upon the previous iterations. And the main story was not... The main story just failed in moments where it shouldn't have, in my opinion. And so that kind of just colored everything in my mind, you know, to the point where it's like, I feel like I enjoyed this game and I enjoyed playing it.
Same.
And I will enjoy playing it and like seeing more of the side quests and, you know, doing some different things with the companions and stuff like that, because I feel like there is still value in that for me. But my whole like overall opinion of the game is a little more negative than I feel like it should be, because the main story just flopped when it could have shown, you know? And I agree with you. Like, I don't think that that they did anything that new with this to the point where they couldn't have spent more time developing that story and making it better. Because anything, like, the three of us are not writers. Well, you've done some writing, Xonevant. But, you know, like, we're not, like, professional writers. And we could probably, just between the three of us, come up with 5 or 6 storylines that they could have taken with this thing that would have been better and more developed than what they did. And we could do that in a few weeks. You know? And it just feels like a shame. You know? It just feels like a shame.
There was so much potential for the game. And
Yeah.
it feels like they executed the world really well. The game mechanics worked really well. The main story fell flat on its face.
Yeah.
And I think that just about sums it up
Yeah.
for me.
I think so too.
Yeah. That's it. That's the nail in the coffin for me, man. The main story.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that was
I like
fun.
Piper, though.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah. It's just, when I think back on this game and I think about the memories I had, it's a shame that it won't be that climactic moment. Because when I think of most games, that's what I think of, right? I'll be thinking about the bugs and the glitches and the fact that I just kept pressing X to get to the dialogue because I just want to get my trophies and I was done with the game. And, you know, the load times. I don't know what you guys face with load times, but on PS4, they're horrific. I'm not really a frame rate guy. Like, things don't have to be running at 50 to 60 frames for me, but they can't be running like a slideshow either, which I don't know if you guys hit that mission, A House Divided, in the Institute, but on PS4, it is bad. I think Digital Foundry did a side-by-side or like a diagnostic, and it was running at less than 20 frames a second.
There was an area in Boston that did that for me. It went down to like 10 frames. And I don't know why.
That's the stuff I remember about this game. My dog not getting out of the way. Companions getting in the way when I'm trying to shoot enemies. Like, these are the things I walk away from. The ending, like you said earlier, where they didn't really show you how you... Because I remember in the old games, man, they would show you that decision you made. You remember that? This is how the outcome was. And none of that. It was just like, oh, it's the wasteland.
And this is how it affected this group of people. Yeah. And this is how, this is what this character, did and whatever.
It's brief and to the point, and it sums up the story.
Yep. And
that's
there was
all they needed.
Something I wanted to bring up too, and maybe I didn't catch this when I played. You get to see all the endings. You get to see, like if you take on the Pridwin and it, goes down, like you said earlier, goes down in flames and you get warped. But you see all that imagery. And I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about it. And they said, when you're playing the game and you see the stuff, you don't realize it. But if you go back and you watch the trailers, and they were talking about this, the trailers actually show all the endings to this game in the trailer.
Wow.
Like when you blow up the Institute, that's in the trailer. Now, in the trailer, you don't know what you're doing because you're just watching the trailer. But when I saw it in the game, I had one of those deja vu moments, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and it didn't really take me out, but I was like, I've kind of seen this, but I kept thinking, well, I remember blowing up Megaton, and maybe that's where I'm drawing the parallel. But you actually see it, and you see the Pridwin going down in flames in the trailer. You also see yourself coming out of the vault, which is pretty iconic, in the trailer. So like all the climactic points of this game, other than seeing Father, is like in the trailer. That's crazy. Now, like I said, nobody probably picked up on it. It's not like you watched a trailer and you went, oh, that's all the endings. But does anybody do that? I was trying to think the other day. I was like, is there any other game that I've ever seen in a trailer where they just give away the endings? And I can't think of one, but that's weird. But I did have that deja vu moment, and that's where it came from because I watched the trailer. That's why I try to stay away from trailers because you just never know. But
oh, man.
I didn't know if either one of you had picked up on that.
No, I didn't realize that.
I think for me, the explosion for destroying the Institute was familiar. But maybe it's just because it looked like a nuclear explosion.
Right, yeah. And then you did it twice. Or 3 times.
Or 4.
Depending upon, how many of the endings you did. And they were the exact same. And, I was thinking in my head, I was like, well, maybe they didn't give us as much exposition at the end because we get to play on after the ending. And so they would have had to have taken into account so many different variables, like, did you do this quest line? Did you do that quest line? Did you meet this person? Did you meet that person? How far along in this little side thing were you, to be able to give you that ending? But they had to do that with the other ones too. So, like, it couldn't have been, that can't be an excuse, and it's like, well, yeah, the game doesn't quote unquote end there as it did in the original, like, vanilla Fallout 3 or in New Vegas. But, you could have still had more fleshing out of that ending so that it didn't feel like no matter what you did, it was the exact fucking same.
Same thing, man. Preach it, sister.
Like, and it was the exact same cutscene.
Yeah.
Except for the very beginning.
When it kind of
like
showed
the
you
first 20 seconds.
Yeah, because it kind of showed you who you went with.
Uh-huh.
But you already know that.
But other than that.
And then you get the scene of Codsworth, I think, and some super mutants walking through downtown Boston.
Yep, same
and
thing.
And she walks back through Sanctuary.
Yep,
and then it
changes
over to the same thing.
Yep. Same
and
thing.
Then war.
And it was
war
the same
never
dialogue,
changes.
the same monologue, voiceover.
Yep.
Same words.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep. I didn't
and
get
it's like, well, why do I even bother to pick a faction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so disappointing.
It is.
And again, like, ugh. I'm sorry.
Nah,
I'm gonna talk.
Nah, you're good. Do your thing.
It's disappointing to me that they went with the same thing of you must pick one faction and that faction is then going to be against all of the others, except for the Minutemen. I know that you don't have to destroy the Brotherhood and the Railroad. You only have to destroy the Institute with them. But for everybody else, like, you have to pick one and then the others are enemies and there's no getting around that. That just feels very linear and just not complex enough for me. Like, they did that with New Vegas, and it sort of made more sense with New Vegas because the factions were more... It felt like the factions were more disparate and more very clear on what they wanted, and they wanted very different things. Like, at the heart of all four of your major factions, they wanted the same thing, which was to better humanity and to have a better future. And so
they all wanted Hoover Dam.
Well, yeah, but they all wanted Hoover Dam for their own purposes. Like, their agendas were very different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like the agendas for these people were that different such that, they necessarily had to fight each other. I understand why they were fighting each other, but it's that whole thing of, like, if you have a person who can be that liaison, as you were saying before, Rob, about that if you could be the liaison between them, like, you go and you do enough of the Institute stuff so that they do sort of trust you and you learn more about them and it actually tells you more about what they're, like, actually doing, and you become the director. Why can't you go and talk to the leader of the railroad and try to work out some arrangement, like you said, like, okay, well, I'm the director now, so I'm going to say that this is the direction that we're going to go. We're going to give these synths a choice. And that way we don't have to wipe each other out. If it was the Brotherhood, I agree, Maxon was a douche and would never have agreed to anything. But let's say we had something where we ousted him. We could defame him or, somehow either assassinate him or
show the merits of another individual that outweigh
right.
his.
Exactly. So you could maybe raise Proctor Ingram to be the leader. Like, she seemed much more reasonable. And so you could, like, talk with her. And in my mind, I had this thing, and I know it doesn't 100% work. But in my mind, I was thinking something like, I'm the director, and, if we can somehow get Maxon out of power, and either I become in charge, or we have somebody else in charge that's more reasonable, and then I'm also talking to the railroad. Why couldn't we have this thing where we talk to all of them, we have this little council, we create a council, and we agree that something happens like the Brotherhood needs to be in charge of the technology. So the Institute technically becomes under the Brotherhood, although they're really not. They're sort of given their own free rein to make decisions about what they do, but it's like technically under the banner of the Brotherhood, right? So the Brotherhood feels like they're in charge, and they have the benefit of having all the technology that the Institute produces to use. Cool. And then if we're working with the railroad as well, they want the synths who are self-aware to have a choice. So, okay, so they have some choices. They could choose to stay with the Institute, and we're no longer going to have them as slave labor. They get to choose which division they want to work for and what they want to do, just like any other person as part of the Institute. Or they could leave and become part of, the Minutemen maybe, and help with their settlements, and therefore we still have some oversight over them.
And maybe there's some sort of register for every synth that's been put out in the world, so you can keep tabs on all of them and make sure none go rogue.
Exactly. Or they could become part of the Brotherhood and work as a synth unit being led by Dance or something. Like, why could that not have worked? I think there could have been some way to make that work. If you had, like, high enough charisma and if you had high enough rapport with different individuals.
It's like in New Vegas, you could effectively persuade the final boss not to fight you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we can all agree that we're just overall disappointed in the main story, and the gameplay mechanics worked fairly well for the most part.
Mm-hmm. It was just a good game, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It just wasn't great.
It just wasn't great, and
it won't be my game of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't know about you guys. I'm looking for great games, compelling games. I'm just done with good. I'll still play good. I'll still have fun with it, but I won't remember good anymore. I'm at that point. I've played a ton of games in my day, and I'm just looking for that next compelling story that takes me on a ride, and I remember that ride. And like I said, the most thing I remember in this is the glitches and the bugs and the companion system not working sometimes. That's what I remember, and that's not what you want your gamers walking away from your game remembering, right? And I think all that could have been fixed with a couple more years of development. I really do.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think what makes it worse in my mind is that there are so many media outlets that are praising this thing as like a 10 out of 10 or a 9.7, and it just isn't.
And what's crazy is that they will state the exact same issues that we just stated in this podcast in their reviews, and they'll still give it a 10. And that's, reviews is a whole nother ball game we can talk about it. But I just think the whole review system is really in a weird state right now, because I feel like people are just reviewing games based on the funny hair standing up on the back of their neck or the feeling they get when the credits roll, and not actually, are the gameplay mechanics broke or not? That's how you should be reviewing your game. You know what I mean? And if a gameplay mechanic is broken, it can't be a 10, right? It's impossible for a game to get a 10 if major gameplay mechanics are broken, right? That would be my take on the situation. But they'll list off 5 or 6 things, same things we've listed, and the game still gets 10s. Any other game, it would not be a 10. It wouldn't get. Batman Arkham didn't get a 10, did it? When it came out with its bugs and glitches and all that kind of stuff, it didn't get it. It didn't get a 10. It may have got a 10 on a couple outlets, but most of them ganked it on the scores. And readers of those sites ganked it in the comments, and videos were going up left and right. Frame rate doesn't work. Glitches. Hey, Bethesda, though, they throw a game out, it gets a pass. Because it's a Bethesda game. Oh, hey, man, these guys are pushing the limit. Like I said earlier, man, just because you push the limit does not give you a pass. It actually puts you out there a little bit more to get more criticism. You're putting yourself out there a little bit more than anybody else, and you're going to get it worse than anybody else. And that's just how I see it. But I would love to talk about reviews in a whole separate subject, because I just feel like reviews are in a weird place right now with media.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we have done a good talk.
Yeah. Hopefully we haven't made too many enemies on the internet. That's just our opinions.
I think we made it sound like we really didn't like the game, when I think I really, overall, I enjoyed the game. It just wasn't like my favorite game ever.
It was just a good game.
I thoroughly enjoyed the
nothing bad
game.
with
It just lost me towards the end of the main story because I enjoyed all the other factions other than the Institute.
Yeah, I'm on. I mean, I'm on my third playthrough now. Granted, I'm doing a trophy guide for it, but I wouldn't be doing a trophy guide if I didn't think it was a good game. I mean, I quit Thief hours into it because I didn't think Thief was a good game. So I like it. I like it enough to. Definitely got my money's worth, but it was not a compelling story, and I can't talk about it as if it was when it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's just, I think that's what's different from us versus some of these review sites who are throwing down the same lingo we've been throwing down, yet they give it Game of the Year 10s and all this other stuff. It seems weird to me.
I will be upset if it gets Game of the Year this year.
Because there were so many other great games.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even played Witcher. I've never actually played Witcher. But in my mind, to me, that's the game.
Yeah,
if you're talking,
that is my game of the year.
If you're talking open world, right? To me, that's the game.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even played it. But to me, that's the game.
Right, let's try not to get into a conversation about The Witch.
Oh my god.
But I appreciate you guys having me on, man. I've had a good time.
It's been really nice to have another person to bounce ideas off.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening to our 2+ hour rambling here. I think we all had a good time doing it. And let us know what you guys think. Agree, disagree. Feel free to have opinions different than ours.
Yep. All are welcome.
We'll hash it out in the comments. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.